go. Good afternoon. This is the meeting of the Design Adjustment Committee. Before we get started, I have to read the introduction. The Design Adjustment Committee's purpose is to establish clear and measurable review criteria for the consideration of major deviations from the city's technical standards and specifications manual. The Design Adjustment Committee does not consider housing type, cost of the proposed unit, occupants, building material, unit size, number of bedrooms, or the architectural design of the structures. These hearings are quasi-judicial evidentiary hearings. That means it's like a court hearing, and the committee's decisions are constrained by the standards in the ordinance and based upon the facts presented. All variance requests require a 4/5 vote of the committee to grant the variance. Appeals of the Design Adjustment Committee decisions are to the Board of Adjustment. A written notice of appeal must be filed to the city clerk within 30 days of the decision. Appeals are set for the hearing before the Board of Adjustment within 30 days or as soon thereafter as practicable. The parties in these cases are entitled to an impartial board. If a board member has a fixed opinion on the matter, a financial interest in the outcome, a close relationship with the affected person, or has any ex parte communication about the matter, please disclose that information to determine if a recusal is necessary. City staff will introduce the proposed project to the committee, and the committee members may ask questions. The applicant may present additional information about the project, and the members may ask questions. If anyone wishes to provide evidence at today's hearing, witnesses must sign in on the clipboard. Do we have a clipboard? And be sworn in. Because witnesses are to provide sworn testimony, please focus on the facts and the standards, not personal preference or opinion. When a witness comes forward to give testimony, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and speak clearly. At this time, staff will administer the oath for any individuals who intend to provide witness testimony.
If all staff, applicants, and members of the public would please stand up to be sworn in. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay, the first order of business is approval of the minutes. Has the committee had a chance to review the minutes from the past meeting? And if so, are there any questions, comments? Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved. That brings us to the first item of business, which is 5216 Oleander Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you today is a change of use application and request for design adjustments for 5216 Oleander Drive. This property is approximately 2.18 acres. They're requesting these adjustments for existing driveways as part of a proposed change of use for an existing structure. The existing building is vacant. It's a commercial structure. There are two drives along Oleander Drive, two driveways along Oleander Drive, and two driveways along Forest Park Road. Previously, this was the Jelly Beans indoor skating rink, and the proposed use is a religious institution, Life Church. There are three adjustments being requested today for the existing driveways. The first is relief from the minimum corner clearance for existing driveways along a major thoroughfare. The second is relief from the minimum property line offset for existing driveways on a major thoroughfare. And the third is relief from the minimum two-way driveway property line offset. If DAC recommends approval of this request, staff recommends the conditions that are in your case summary be applied. That's all I have for my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And I will add that they are proposing to close the driveway closest to Forest Park Road along Oleander Drive. So there will be three functioning driveways.
Any questions? I don't. So does the applicant?
The applicant is here, yes.
Okay.
Branch Smith, Paramount Engineering, representing the applicant. Um, So driveway 1 is the one on the right-hand side of the screen, the one closest to the Novant Hospital property. I think there's the 2 variances on that one. And we're closing driveway number 3, or number 2, which is the one at the intersection of Forest Park and Oleander. So, there's no variances for that. And then driveway number 3 didn't need any variances, and driveway number 4, I think, is the 3rd variance request. Driveway number 4 is back at the back of the property, loading dock. There will be a rear access to use for public entrance, so there'll be public parking there as well. But that parking lot is kind of dead end in there. And then there's a little alley access between the building and the property line between 4 and 3. That's pretty much it. If you got any questions.
Yeah. Branch, hey, I have one question. So I see that the parking lot in back seems to have some sort of connectivity to the parcel adjacent, but it's got a gate up or something. I mean, I've just saw that in Street View, and you can see it on these plans. Is there any kind of cross-access agreement or in place with that? Will there be access from that parcel or no?
There is, there is that gate there. I think it's primarily, I don't know legally what it is, but there's a sewer easement back there that runs back there, and so that's part of it. But yeah, there is shared access between those 2 properties. But I might, some more details on that?
Yeah, I guess my question centers around what are the plans for that access? Is it going to remain closed or potentially there for emergency access only? Is the plan to open it up in any manner, close it off, curb it up?
I know the 2 properties have discussed.
Hey, Branch, you do us a favor and pull that microphone down a little bit. I'm having trouble hearing you.
I know the 2 properties have discussed sharing in case of big events. They would use both parking lots because there's a big parking lot basically is what it connects to behind the Novant building. But they don't need that, I think, for the services on Sunday. But there have been in discussions with them, and they were going to allow them to park back there if they needed to. Is that right?
I can address that on behalf of the church. We do have,
Yeah, can you please step up to the podium? I apologize, thank you.
we do have a signed lease.
Excuse me, sir, please
Yes.
give your name for the record.
Greg, G-R-E-G, Redden, R-E-D-D-E-N. I'm on staff at Life Church. We do have a fully executed lease with Novant that will allow us back in that parking space if we need that for overflow parking.
Okay.
So that gate that's currently locked will open up, or we'll have keys to open it in the event that we would need that for overflow.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for the app?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of, do you think driveway number 4, the one to the back, is necessary for part of this? I mean, that could be potentially closed off, and it's not like a huge restaurant where we have Cisco trucks probably rolling in all the time, I would imagine. So, let's talk about that. Is that needed? Is that a variance we could possibly pull off the table?
Hey, Chad, we can't hear you, man.
Okay. Let's talk about driveway number 4.
Okay.
What do y'all think about it?
I had similar thoughts in that, I guess if you do pull it out, it does make that parking lot, further from the driveway entrance. So you'd have to come in the entrance off of Forest, the other entrance, number 3, I guess, and then loop behind, which isn't ideal. My concern was more, if you look at the parcels, maybe one click out, it's going to make installation of a drive, if that property to the south of them was ever developed, it's going to make installation of a driveway off of that parcel more difficult. So like you, I'm kind of wondering if potential shared access is, I mean, it sounds like they've kind of already got it on the other side of the parking lot, which is good. I didn't know that. I wanted to get clarification on that, but I was wondering about shared access as well.
Yeah, that's one possibility. I think the question maybe for the applicant would be, what sort of trucks are being served back there for deliveries and loading and unloading? So I wonder about its need. Unless there was a condition to be put on it that it would be a shared access for any future development to the south.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't see an overwhelming need for it. What is the thoughts of the rest of the group?
No, I don't think, I mean, even if it were there, if we were trying to pull something, we would never get ourselves committed back there in that tight of a space because we're too close to the building and you got a narrow access way and a very tight turn radius. We would not be able to get vehicles in and out of there if we needed to. We would not commit ourselves even through that driveway to get that side of the building because it's limited access and can get us jammed up that we can't get out.
What if you had some sort of like access to the parking lot with Novant? Would that benefit you in any way? Like
I would have to look at the overall plan to make a decision on that. But as for driveway 4, again, with the narrowness of the building between that passageway through there and that small parking area, that's a very tight radius that we would not even attempt because we would make our trucks exposures if there were some kind of a major incident. So driveway 4 really would not serve us any major purpose.
Okay. Okay, well, let's come back to that one. Looking at the first 2 variances apply to driveway number 1. Personally, I don't have an issue with that one remaining in its current location. I did want to sort of discuss get Dennis's opinion on, I see that it's adjacent to that turn lane taper, and if there was any concerns about that.
I don't have any concerns, the driveway's there now, it's been there in that arrangement. I don't know how far back, but I really don't have any concerns about that situation.
Yeah, I feel like I don't really have a problem with that one either, especially considering that the adjacent parcel to the east already has an established entrance that's quite a ways from that. The property line offset can create sort of 2 driveways right next to each other, and that's something you want to avoid. But in this situation, you have 2 established driveways, and I don't feel like that's a big issue. Plus, it's aligned with that drive aisle, so it seems to circulate well. I do have a procedural question maybe for Brian. So if we consider the variances, do we also have to approve the overall plan again, or is that not the case here?
I think since the adjustments are just for the driveways, there's really not a subdivision or a plan for this. It would just be the adjustments.
Just the adjustments.
It's just when you have a preliminary plan with adjustments, you also have to approve the preliminary plan.
All right, whether standard. So if we did choose to approve, the conditions that you suggested would be attached to each variance approval? The 4 recommended?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I guess we have to, before we take any votes, we have to open the public hearing. So, no objection, I'll do that now. Okay. We'll open the public hearing on this. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this particular issue? Any of the 3 variances associated with this project? Okay. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. So that brings us to any final discussion and potentially a motion.
I would just say, you know, it looks like those first two adjustments, or at least the first one, it doesn't look like they can even avoid that situation. I'm seeing 255 feet of property frontage, and if they have to be 230 feet from the intersection, I don't foresee that being attainable.
Okay.
And I agree with the second variance that to move that driveway would impose, you know, they wouldn't be able to access the drop-off awning area of that church property
Okay.
as well. The alignment of their drive aisles sets up nicely for the use.
Okay. Well, I'm going to make a motion, and I'm going to do them for both 1 and 2, variance 1 and 2, since they're related. I'm going to approve both the corner offset and the property line offset for driveway number 1. The justification being the existing, they're already closing a non-compliant driveway, and driveway number 1 is existing and seems to align with the current development pretty well in circulation.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so that's the first 2 variances, the first 2 adjustments, which brings us to the third variance, which is the driveway number 4. Any more discussion on that?
I guess just your comments about getting a fire truck back there, if retaining that driveway, if something were to be happening on the rear of that property,
Yeah,
That driveway.
after I was going through this, because you were looking at closing that, and I'm looking at this site, that driveway would be the only way we could get back there.
okay.
Because again, the going along the side of the building in the width and then trying to make that extremely sharp turn, there's nothing you can do because it's existing. So the driveway would be the only way we could ever access that backside for whatever reason. So recanting what I had said, I would not be in favor of closing that driveway.
I had the
Because
same
we'd be
concerns as
restricted on
well,
that.
yeah. But to your point, Rob, would providing a future potential cross-access easement to that property at the south, would that be something the applicant would be willing to consider?
I do have a point on this same driveway. Since there's that public sewer easement back there, if you close the driveway, does that impact you accessing that sewer easement?
Branch, can you step up a little bit?
Oh, sorry. I was asking if we close that driveway, number 4, does that impact CFPUA and accessing that public sewer main, basically? Obviously, it makes it more difficult to get in there. It's a pretty big easement. I'm not sure, I guess it's the sewer for the house, the Novant property. It would ultimately serve the property to the south as well. The same property owner, Novant, owns the side and the rear. But I'll let them speak to the cross-access easement.
I mean, personally, I don't have a problem with it remaining, but approval of that variance sort of impacts the rights of the adjoining property owner a little bit by limiting where they can install a driveway entrance on their property. So it's a difficult thing for us to say, yeah, I mean, right now, it's there, it's existing, it serves a benefit from both the sewer access, fire access to the rear of the building, but, you know, what happens if, you know, that adjacent parcel is developed, because it's the same parcel on the east and then to the south, it just loops around. But if that were to ever somehow expand or redevelop in some way, it limits the ability to install a driveway on Forest Park. Yeah.
Is there anything in the technical standards, so for that, the property line to the south, that would require them to put a driveway some distance away from that property line?
Well, it's the same standard that we're issuing the variance for. You know, that has to be I think it's 6.5? Yeah, 6.5 feet from the property line, which isn't a whole lot.
Yeah, no, it's not.
I mean, I don't anticipate it being a problem, you know, but it would be better if we had one entrance that was
Fair.
shared between them. But we can't condition an adjacent property owner, so that's the shtick we're on. So,
Given that it's an existing condition and that it would be the point of access for a fire truck, I lean into safety first. And letting, you know, it seems okay.
okay. Now, Branch, you don't necessarily need to come up here to answer this, but the plan, as I understand it, is to leave driveway number 4 the same? It's not to be, is it need to be rebuilt in any way? No, okay.
Would there be reason to change it to a driveway type, like out on Oleander?
I mean, I think dimensionally, like from a width perspective, it meets standards, I assume. I don't think there's not been any other waivers identified, so I have to make the assumption that dimensionally,
Okay.
with the exception of the offset, both the taper and the throat width are compliant with tech standards. I mean,
Okay.
It also appears to have the benefit of providing the safest access to the overflow parking in the back of Novant. That way, people aren't coming down alongside the building and making a blind turn, and people aren't turning off of Oleander and weaving through the Novant parking lot. They would be able to access through driveway number 4 and get to that overflow parking. I don't know if that's a consideration.
no, I mean, I definitely see the benefit to the circulation, you know, and access with it being kind of a straight shot there. I'm comfortable with it. Can I get a motion, maybe?
I'll make a motion to approve adjustment number 3, just to leave the driveway number 4 as is, due to the existing site constraints of the position of the structure, the parking lot, and the drive aisle to the rear of the property.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That variance also is approved. Thank you. So that's all we need to do for item number 1, correct? Okay. That takes us to item number 2, Centerpoint. Does staff have a presentation?
Good afternoon. This is the Centerpoint project. This was approved by, the original preliminary plan for this was approved by the SRB, which has now been dissolved, replaced by this body. Back in June of 2018, there were a number of waivers that were approved at that time, and those waivers will remain valid moving forward. This will be for an additional adjustment that this committee is going to be considering today. The site includes about 23 acres. It's zoned UMX CD, Urban Mixed Use Conditional District. So currently approved for 370 apartment units, 220 room hotel, approximately 102,000 square feet of office space, 121,000 square feet of retail and restaurant space. The project is being developed in conjunction with the extension of Drysdale Drive, which will be extended across Military Cutoff, and this is part of the NCDOT project for the improvements to the intersection of Eastwood and Military. And this is the first part of that. I believe that's been let for construction to begin next month. The waiver before you today is for a portion of the private drive in the middle of the project, a section of it, just between, I guess, the driveway to the east of, I can't read that building, but basically on either side of I guess, the plaza area that's going to be designed as an entrance feature for the project. So they would like to get relief from the standard city cross-section for a non-residential collector here to allow the elimination of the vertical curb. They want to do a unique design for this section of roadway, and this is the design concept. I am not versed enough to describe what they're trying to do here, so I'm going to have to defer to the applicant to provide some details of what they really want this to look like. But they do need this waiver to pursue this option for design. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and with this one, you will have to approve the preliminary plan along with the adjustment.
Okay. I guess, so the non-standard cross-section sort of covers everything. That covers the pavers, or whatever other variance is associated with, I mean, the curbing is the main one, but.
Right.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'll reserve the rest of my questions for the applicant. Any other questions for Brian? Thanks.
Thank you.
Does the applicant wish to speak?
How are y'all doing? My name's Toby Hinkle. I'm with CI Design, representing the developer and owner. The section in question, would it be all right to give you some additional images on the 11 by 17s, or would you prefer I just speak with what's on the screen?
That's just fine. We just need an extra copy for the clerk so she can put it in the record if you got enough.
Is it this?
I'm assuming he's going to. So that's in addition to what we were already given?
It's a little bit more blown up.
Okay. All right, thank you. Oh, my God. I can't read that. It's like way past the bottom line on the eye chart.
Copyright 19.
We can start with what's on the screen. As was stated, this is a vertical and horizontal mixed-use development with 2 phases going to it. The intent of the main plaza section, as you see, we've got 2 main green spaces on both the west and east side of the private drive. The intent is to make this a large, walkable, flexible gathering space. So in the event we have an event that could overtake the entire plaza, the southern portion of the plaza is where our main paving across that private drive starts, and then it stops on the northern portion just past the sort of purple amenity club space in the building to the north. The intent is for the section between the 2 green areas to go from just your standard raised curb to a flush curb, but to maintain the necessary vehicle obstruction, we're suggesting locating both planters and trees and light poles sufficiently to keep any vehicles from crossing that path. In the 3rd page of the handout, shows you the intent of different light pole and planter spacing along with tree locations and the extent of the overall flush curb just in the plaza section. From the north and south, if there were an event, we would likely put some removable bollards so that there would be no vehicle traffic at those times. But what we're trying to avoid, if that is being used as an entire contiguous space, is a flush, non-trip hazard condition as people are crossing and using that area. The page after that is about as generic as an example of a cross-section we're looking for the curb, with the vertical curb and the flush one. It'll be just an extension of the vertical curb will come into the southern portion, drop to a flush curb, continue to the northern portion where the other bollards may be, and then return to the standard vertical curb condition. The intent of that area in having the pavers, it's a traffic calming issue. We want to make this equivalently open to both the vehicle and the pedestrian. And I think that about covers it, if there's any questions.
Just out of curiosity, the yellow vehicles shown on the screen,
Yes.
they're on the sidewalk, or what's going on there?
The yellow vehicle there, I think, is a hangover, and that is embarrassing, of showing how we might have like a auto or vehicle show.
Okay, so advertisement type vehicle.
It is an intern I'm going to need to talk to,
Okay.
is what it means.
There's two of them on there, by the way, so just be careful.
Yes, both the interns.
Okay, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the entire run of this is in private right-of-way, correct? Isn't there a portion, like, if you can, I'm starting to figure out can you zoom back to the overall, yes, thank you. The roundabout there, that's public, right? That roundabout out to Drysdale is public, and then Calypso is public, but everything else is private?
No, I believe we are private around that roundabout as well. You've got Drysdale that's going to the south of the complex, Eastwood to the east of the complex, or the south of the complex, and then Calypso, which is public, to the north.
Roadway, not the roundabout.
Okay.
Little
No,
stub.
where I'm going with this is like, I'm trying to make sure that, I thought that the roundabout was public, and I think Brian's checking into that. And to make sure that this condition isn't going to bleed into the public right-of-way.
Yeah, hey, Drew Hatcher. Do I need to spell my name as well? No, okay. The roundabout itself is public. I think what Toby you were saying is our private right-of-way essentially begins at the roundabout. So the driveway into the development from Drysdale is public. The roundabout itself is public, and then essentially we carve out a square, if you will, around that roundabout, and it's private, going from each direction away from the roundabout.
Sure, but this condition that you're asking the waiver for does not extend into the public right-of-way in any way?
Correct. It does not extend into the public right-of-way. This is only for our private area.
Okay, because on this sheet, you can see where the condition looks like it stops right there, and I don't know how I can point, but but on the second sheet of your handout, it looks like this condition might extend all the way to the roundabout. And I guess I wanted to get clarification on that. Where
Yeah.
exactly is this condition going to apply?
I think it's a matter of how if you'll go back to the overall, I could explain it easier.
Do you have the ability to use
Oh.
a mouse and point?
Sorry.
Yeah, that.
Okay. Where the site is rendered in that is the extent of the area that we're looking at that curb. So the curb will stop before that drive into the private parking lot.
So you'll be fully restored back up to vertical curb by that point?
At this point here,
Okay.
to the roundabout, we will be vertical curb.
And then
Fr-
from that point on
From
to
that point
Calypso?
here, we would go vertical as well.
Okay.
In the handouts that you provided for us, because I see what you're saying, that it is rendered as though that condition of no vertical curb goes up to the roundabout. So is the intent, and it still could look like that in the ground plane due to paver materiality selection or whatever, and you could still have a vertical curb there. Is that the idea?
Correct.
Okay, so
That-
so you're going to mediate between that grade change by continuing the patterning of kind of the Voonarf area down to the roundabout?
Correct. The intent would be for it to potentially apron up, so it moves with the curb so that the roadway comes up flush to the top of the curb for that section.
Okay.
So the curb material will remain the same.
Okay. I guess my next question is centered around drainage. If it's just going to be entirely flush, I mean, we'll get to the bollard planter stuff in a minute, but the next question was around drainage. How are y'all, if there's no curbing, how are y'all going to manage drainage? Is there any crown to this section here? Or is it flat? Are you using pervious pavers?
So it'll be a combination. There are some pervious pavers, but for the most part, grading on our screen is basically the culvert that crosses under here is kind of a low point. And so we're basically going to be capturing as it flows down the roadway with these tree boxes. We have some Filtera units there, and those Filtera units can treat the water and capture it as it's going. Essentially, we would be grading everything towards what would be considered the curb line. And then there almost could be, there's a few different ways we can handle it, but one way would be almost to make like a very low slope swale, for lack of a better term, that would kind of follow that existing curb line so that those Filtera units could still capture the water with grates at the surface.
Okay, so the road would still have crown.
The road would still have a very slight crown to it, yes. It would not be flat in the sense of a concrete driveway flowing through here. It would be a roadway surface, the sloping, the 2% crown, those things, if you will, would still remain. It's just when it got to the curb, there wouldn't be a 6-inch standing curb there. It would be flush.
Would there still be curb around the landscaping?
I'm sorry?
You see there's at least one landscape, bump out island where the cursor's not there, but there.
Right here?
Yeah. Now, I believe the text standards require a 6-inch barrier to protect that landscaping. Is that still going to be there in some form? It looked like from some of the rendered images there was some form of a curb or barrier or something, but
The initial intent was, let me use that. The initial intent was for the flush curb to continue around the planting area, but if we needed to look at an amendment to that, we certainly could, based on the text.
okay. Yeah, I think the intent of that is to protect the landscaping, I don't know that we got a landscape plan with this, but whatever landscaping you're putting in that bump out, that's what the curb's there to protect. So I'm assuming you have some way to manage that. Keep cars from parking in it, running over it.
Understood. I mean, right now, as far as like the tree areas and the trees are in grates and planting areas, but we could look at a raised curb condition there, an adjustment to the planting area so it's set back and has that protection.
Other questions?
You'd mentioned something earlier, and maybe I misunderstood you. You said that you were placing collapsible bollards. What kind of give me some clarification on what you're talking about?
The thought being, in the way that we've set up the parking lots and access to this area, having some removable bollards so that if there is an event, we can install bollards at the north and south ends of this area so that we've got protection we're keeping any vehicles out of this area during an event that would
So
cross.
basically using it as a actual pedestrian plaza with vehicles not being allowed to access during some kind of special events okay.
Correct,
Thank you,
sir.
that's all I need.
Thank
Thanks.
Page 5 of your handout, are those actual locations, or is that just a really good rendering? Because that was my question when looking at this. I was like, I don't know enough about where this potentially has been done elsewhere and what mitigating circumstances they use to sort of corral vehicles and such.
I've worked in a city that did this at the main intersection downtown, and it's wonderful.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, especially given that the ability to close it off for public events or private events or whatever kind of events y'all are having there. I mean, it generally, I think, speaks to the desire of the community through the comp plan to prioritize people and pedestrians over vehicles. I mean, even in the design of this space being flexible as it is, and these images that we're seeing in the back, I mean, these are real places. sorry, I'm gonna get back in the microphone again. And I never saw a problem when I've seen this in action and out in the real world. It generally, I mean, you're designating different areas like for vehicle or for pedestrian through some sort of striping or paving material. There's a visual cue for people to know where they're supposed to be and where there's not supposed to be. And I think this is great.
Okay. I mean, will there be, I assume that the spaces will be striped?
They will be striped in some fashion, whether it's with pavers or whatnot, yes.
Okay. And I guess this is maybe a question for you or maybe a question for Brian, but has this been submitted for any kind of TRC review, this particular design? Or because I know that there's been submittals for Centerpoint. I mean, we have to kind of distance ourselves from the plan review process when these hearings are coming up, so I don't know where they're at.
Yeah, this design has been submitted for TRC and is under review with a standard curb detail. So we're coming to you today with the flush curb option for that section.
Okay, so if we're favorable to this, then it would have to go back through the technical review to modify the plans. That's correct? Okay. So they can look at it for all the different paver spacing and drainage and all the stuff that we might have, technical concerns that we might have. It can get reviewed. It'll have an opportunity to get reviewed.
And the paver locations and extent is in the current TRC review submittal. So
Okay.
they will identify the required spacing and adherence to the text beyond what we're asking for a amendment to.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Mr. Gordon, we need to take a pause. We have some technical difficulties over here.
Oh, okay.
Just one sec.
Sure.
About to get approval.
Well, we still have to open the hearing, public hearing, I think. The next thing we're going to do anyway is open the public hearing, so. You ready? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. So at this time, we'll open the public hearing on this matter. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak? Okay. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Any other discussion on these matters? I guess we have just the one variance to consider, the non-standard section, and then approval of the, if we choose, the preliminary plan. And it's with that, the preliminary plan, that we would apply the recommended conditions, if we so choose. Any concerns from a fire or traffic? Okay. I guess if the plans show planters or whatever, and over time those planters get gone, I guess we'd have the ability to require that they be reinstalled, right? I mean, if that's part of the plan that we approve?
I believe so, but you can make certain of it with a conditional approval. Make that statement, make it clear that, if anything changes, they'd have to rectify that.
Well, I mean, I think that the intent there is that the trees, the light poles, and the planters shown on both the plans and the renderings serve to sort of contain, in lieu of wheel stops or curbing, they're there to sort of delineate between the cars and the pedestrians.
It's actually peak, I think, design. These things are achieving a multiplicity of function, right? I mean, the trees, for example, are providing shade, their beautification, their habitat, and they're providing a safety measure from the vehicles. And I'd blanket that with the lights and the planters as well.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, do we have a motion from anybody, or?
You do it. Motion to approve the standard detail variance for the section of Center Point Road shown in the plan.
Can we get justification?
I don't know. I don't know what you need by justification.
The justification for allowing this change to improve the pedestrian connectivity between the two sides, but maintaining,
I get you. The standard the detail doesn't account for, I don't think, the evolving condition of the urban cityscape, and this does attempt to evolve with that, I think, and they've done a good job, from what I can tell, of at least creating a place that vehicles can use, but is also able to adapt and change over time for people as needed.
So just so I'm clear, the justification is the evolving nature of the city streetscape.
Yes.
Thank you.
It'll reduce the tripping hazard too.
What's that?
It'll reduce the tripping hazard too.
Bonus.
I'll second that. I mean, I think that they've mitigated a lot of the need for the vertical curb. I don't think, considering the paving will help as a traffic calming measure, I think that you aren't going to have, a lot of the need for that curb is for errant vehicles, and they've provided that through the use of the landscape planters, the trees, and the lighting. So I'll second that motion. Any other discussion? In favor of approval of the waiver, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. And that brings us to the preliminary plan. The only concern I have with the preliminary plan is the discrepancy between the plan we're looking at on screen and the plan that was submitted in the, I guess, the exhibit that was handed out. I think we're approving the plan, we have to approve the plan that was submitted as part of the packet. What I don't know is if they want to expand this condition beyond that. Do we have any objection to that? I mean, my only objection was that it would need to be, the curb condition would need to be fully restored by the time you get to the public right-of-way. So as we get close to that roundabout, we have to be fully transitioned back to a standard condition. But
We can add that as a condition to the approval. We can add any condition you'd like to the ones that are in the report are just what those recommended by staff. You can always add or amend those.
okay.
Can we get, again, can we get confirmation from the applicant that what we see on the screen here is what was intended to be approved today, from the first driveway to the right of the roundabout to not quite the second driveway?
That is correct. The section that shows, that is showing paving across the drive there in the rendering is the extent of that.
Okay.
So anything to the plan east of that driveway connecting to the Center Point Drive will be the flush curb. Anything to the left or west will be your standard detail.
Okay,
Perfect.
My apologies for the conflict there.
Yes.
it's all good. I'll make the motion to approve the preliminary plan, applying the recommended conditions in the staff report. I think with all the discussion we've had today, I don't know that there's a need to formalize well, heck, I'll ask, including the planters and as a barrier, I guess, as an added condition. But I will make the motion to approve the plan.
I'll second it.
For discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, plan is approved. Thank you.
Does anybody want to make a motion? We'll get ready to.
It's all good. Kind of on cruise control at that point.
We do need to officially continue that to next week.
Okay. Where is the, I don't even have it, I've lost it. There it is. So how does that work? This is the avenue, the third item. Do we have to get a motion to continue that?
Yes, staff is recommending, is requesting continuance this item to a special meeting to be held on July 27th.
Okay. I'll make that motion that we agree with staff's, take staff's recommendation to continue this to the meeting on July 27th.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, I guess we're adjourned. Thank you.